welcome to Sal's Hoopheads. Great to have your company. Big week. Final four. GJ Gardner-Holmes, Tauihi, all on the line. The full crew is back around the desk. Great to see you all. Can't wait for this weekend.
It is. It feels like it's been a long time coming, but we're finally here. Commiserations to the Pauakai, but we got the four best teams, unfortunately, and it was skinny. That's how good it has been. It's been right up into that last round.
So competitive, wasn't it?
Yeah, so tight. I mean, it was great right up until this round came out, and the winners came out on top, and now we have our final four.
Going to have a look at the results in just a moment, but gee, some players came to play in round 8.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as the season's gone on, you can see everybody's gotten more and more comfortable, not just with their skill sets and how they fit in the team, but their teammates as well. And some teams it's changing strategy late in the season based on some personnel stuff, and some different teams I think are going to be in the Final Four than what we saw throughout the regular season.
And a new individual scoring record as well. It was
buckets.
A massive performance from Tess Madgen. Let's have a look at the results from round 4. And we go back to that Thursday night game. Pauakai all on the line for them. Queens were very good in that contest. FI, well, they were the team that everyone was watching as well. Took down the Hoiho. Life after Ashton Prechtel. Queens and Kahu put on another fantastic performance, especially the Kahu in that opening quarter. And then the Kahu and the FI. For me, game of the season. Let's go back to the Pauakai, though. They could not get the job done, Case.
It's a difficult game. Look, they've been struggling a little bit throughout the season, obviously. Great in Rapid League, but when it came down to it, I just think they couldn't score consistently enough in the half court with other teams in the league. Kristlyn Carr, once again, was fantastic for the Queens. She's running that offense. Her speed really difficult to keep up with. And as good as Kenny Leonard is with those 17 assists and dropping dimes everywhere, I just don't think enough weapons for the Pauakai to keep pace.
And Miles, Jasmine Dickey, who has had an unbelievable season, just wasn't able to land a blow in this one. Yeah,
that's been the problem for the Pauakai. I think they've come in and they've been competitive, but just when they need to have that punch, they swing, and sometimes it's an air miss, it's an air swing. So they will be ruining lost opportunities throughout the season, because there hasn't been anything that you could really pinpoint all the time that there's been letting them down. It just has been that consistency.
Hard question for you to answer, I know that, but have they underperformed given the team that they assembled? Because it was a very good team.
Yeah, I think it was a disruptive season for them with their players, having injury issues and their coach in and out. That always makes it tough to find that consistency. So yeah, I'd put it down to it just being a little bit disruptive for them, because they definitely have the talent in the roster.
Well played, Crystal. That was an absolutely loaded question. It was. And you have handled that superbly well.
Oh, and you look at the makeup of the team. I think if Natalie Burton had come in earlier in the season for Tasha Mack, who obviously wasn't 100%, and without her able to sort of fight the battles down there on the low post for most of the season, they were always a little bit behind the 8 ball. They looked a better team, the squad that was here late, but at the end of the day, just not enough time.
You get a bit nervous sitting next to me, don't you?
I do. I never know what these questions are going to be.
Well, let's go to the FI and the Hoiho. Life after Ashton Prechtel begins. Zoe Richards, exceptional. The Hoiho were in this for a long way, but with it all on the line in the final round, the FI came up with a brilliant performance, didn't they?
Yeah, I like the way that the FI they knew what was in front of them. They knew that the Hoiho were down their main player, and they just took care of business on their home floor as well. And that's what they need to do. Job done.
Love the way McKenna Dale's playing. Her switchiness defensively has really started to pay some dividends, and offensively, she's just a complete player. Scoring, passing the ball as well. Really has lifted her game as the season has gone along, and that partnership with Michaela Callan has been really impressive.
It's been the bench for the Hoiho as well. They haven't had a lot of production off the bench. They're like one bench point here. I think against the Kahu, they had 0 bench points. Maybe Jenna Connell might have got a bucket. That's been the problem for them all season.
Well, talk to Coach Todd Marshall, and he'll tell you that no team relies on its starters more than him. That's one of the reasons you didn't see some of the higher quality talent in the Rapid League. That's why they all went all the time, because they needed every ounce out of the starters. You lose one of them, especially when as talented as Prechtel, it gets tough.
Zoe Richards?
Yeah, been impressive. I mean, getting it done on both ends of the floor, and just a hustle player, which you love to see, and puts it all out there for her team.
Queens and the Kahu. Kahu went into this game, hadn't beaten the Queens in 5 meetings.
Five, Crystal?
Crystal.
Kahu Kahu came out with their new look starting five. These five hadn't played together before. They literally played the whole game together. They had a 32-8 start. It was super impressive and it set up the victory.
I got to ask Crystal, what was that start like? Was the rim twice as big for you guys as a squad? Coming in at quarter time, were you just like, wrap this one up?
Yeah, no, it felt like it. Like at the start, we were just hitting shots and it felt like any five of us could have the ball and would put it in the hoop. That's what it felt like at the start, but obviously it was a complete different story as the game went on.
Amari is like out there shooting like wing threes.
Shot the lights.
Like she runs down and she is like free throw line to free throw line. She knows where she is every time, but she's like out on the wing, hitting threes. It must have been just fun to play that game.
A couple of big notes from this game. The Queens won the next three quarters. Crystal Carr, standout performance, had 34 in the game. They went into a zone in the second half and it made things a little bit tricky, or trickier for the Kahu.
Yeah, definitely took us out of our flow a little bit and we had to adjust and go to something different. And yeah, good for them for picking that up and
I love how you
challenging
avoid
us.
the traps. It's really good. What did surprise me from the Kahu side was the fact that the bench only played less than 8 minutes, and out of that, the only stats were a missed shot and a foul. So just not the production we're seeing. Relied heavily on that starting five. Well, possibly to the detriment down that stretch. You did look like you ran out of gas down the stretch a little bit. So those were big minutes. I wonder if that strategy changes if you guys meet again.
Yeah, no, we'll have to wait and see for that one.
Kahu and the Phi, Monday night basketball, and this was for me the game of the season. Casey, you and I saw it. Crystal, you were involved in it. The pace of this game was as quick as I have seen in women's basketball since, certainly the last 5 years. It was quite amazing.
Really impressive. First 5 minutes of the game, the Phi were playing at such a pace that I just did not think they would be able to do it for 40. Just as impressive, though, was Amari Thomas and Panina Davidson keeping track that entire time. I thought at times, well, if they do it, they're going to get run off the court, and that just wasn't the case. Every time the Kahu looked like they took control, this Phi team came back, and there was just absolutely no quit. An excellent game plan that sets up a really interesting matchup in the semifinals.
Come up against each other again. We're going to talk about that shortly. Tess Madgen, new leading scorer in Tauihi for a game, 37 points. She was unbelievable. Her start was incredible.
Yeah, no, she was impressive and she had some really tough shots in there, like hands in her face, all over, double teaming her. She was putting it up and they were going in.
Miles, McKenna Dale scored 33. Michaela Cowling scored 32. They lost the game.
Yeah, probably because it's a little bit heavy there towards those two players. And it's going to be interesting to see how they balance that out when it comes down to the elimination.
No Zagara, by the way.
Yeah, hopefully Zagara comes back. She's got a back ailment. You could see in the game earlier in the week against Ohoiho, she has tweaks trying to stretch it out. Alia Wilson, I would like to see her contribute a little bit more offensively. She passed the ball well last night, but I think when you're looking at a team, especially that's down in import, there has to be a heavier scoring load being carried by her. To get 65 out of 2 players and just 23 points out of the rest of the team, you just need a little bit more support.
As a showcase for women's basketball, Pro League basketball here in New Zealand, rate that game.
That might have been the best game I've seen in New Zealand this season.
Yep.
Men, women, whatever. The pace, the style with which we played, it was finals physicality, the back and forth nature, no quit in anybody, and one of my favorite things about basketball, a little bit of disdain.
Yeah.
There was some dislikingness between the two teams that didn't like what was going on, and that's one of the things that really makes basketball fun.
Crystal's micro-nodding. She's going,
Just don't ask me any more questions about that.
no more. You just save that. You save that for the weekend.
Right.
Here's the final ladder. This is how it all washed up after the home and away season of the GJ Gardner Homes at Tauihi. Kahu, Queens, Hoiho, Phi and Puakai. Of course, going into that last round, it was all about the Hoiho and the Phi. Any thoughts on the ladder?
Well, the Puakai making the most of Rapid League. But it is, the 4 best teams are there, as we talked about. The Puakai just didn't have that consistency through their roster, their coaching, and the way that they played throughout the regular season. It's just disappointing for the Hoiho that they don't have Ashton Prector at this time of the year, and it's just a big loss for them. It's going to be difficult.
Well, you want to see the best players play, don't you?
You do, but at the same time that it's disappointing at this point in the season, I think how far the Hoiho have come in one season is really impressive, especially the local talent. Paige Bradley was very good. Ashton Prechtel's been very good. Obviously, Elise Hurst has been good as well. They've carried a lot of that scoring load, but it's the local players who got an opportunity playing at a higher level that I think allowed that team to have the success it did, in particular Zoe Richards.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Had a wonderful season. Speaking of wonderful seasons, the Sky Broadband Rapid League came to a close. at the completion of round 8. 30 games down, so much fun, so much to enjoy. And as we look back on the final games, there was some outstanding individual performances as well. The Rapid League wrap, here it is.
Kendall Hiremaya started strong for the Poakai, but it was the Queens eventually kicking into gear, snapping the mainlanders' win streak. Tyler Mitchell sent the Hoiho into OT with the Whai. The Southerners blitzing the overtime period to come out winners 33-26. It was raining triples in Porirua as the Queens navigated their way through a tough battle with the Kahu, getting this one by 5. But the Northerners would finish the Rapid League season on a high as they took care of home court, defeating the Whai 27-17.
It is awards season in Tauihi. In particular, we all look forward to the MVP and the All-Star 5. And that's where we're going to start right now. All-Star 5. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to start. I'm going to go Crystal Ledger Walker. All-Star 5 for mine.
All 5.
Get off it, mate. Get off it.
He does it every time. Carr, Dickey, Cowling, Thomas, Prechtel are the top 5 scorers this season in Tauihi. They're going to be very tough to shake for the All-Star 5 case.
Well, I'm a voter. I'm on the panel. When I look at the way that those 5 players contributed throughout the season, I can't see how I couldn't pick one of those players to be in the All-Star 5. They meant so much to their teams. Quite often, I value winning at a high level, and Jasmine Dickey being on the worst team in the league, a team that wasn't able to find that level of success, might be the hardest in, but man, she was good. She was so good in those losing efforts even still. I mean, those are the 5 leading scorers in the league, and they played great basketball quite often on both ends of the court.
If any of those 5 made it, you wouldn't question it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. The only other player that I might like to see their name in the mix would be Tess Madgen, obviously with her performance last night, but she did come into the season late. Yeah, so.
Got to play more games than that. You got to play more games than that.
Can I throw a different light on this?
Okay.
Let's say the All-Star 5 Mulls only had 2
imports.
Didn't even finish that. You read my mind.
Well, I think that's fair. That's why I've got Crystal Ledger Walker in there. I would have
Kiwis.
The 3 Kiwis. It's really tough. So are we going 2 bigs and 3 perimeter players?
Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do.
3 inside.
2 internationals make it. Give us 3 Kiwis.
I am going Amari Thomas, Ashton Prechtel, Panina Davidson, Crystal and Zoe Richards. I've got 3 Kiwis, 2 imports.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough because Prechtel has been great. She's injured now, but she had great body work, and it's really tough to leave out Michaela or Crislin Carr.
I'm appreciative of this list. 4 bigs.
Yeah,
It's got 4 bigs in there.
I like the bigs. I like what Panina had been doing. Obviously a local.
Can I add a
Ashton
couple
and
of
Amari.
names that you've missed out?
Yeah. Well, go around first.
Okay,
you got to facilitate a little bit.
No,
They may come up right now.
Yeah, if you're going to give me the obvious names, I mean, we can't be in agreement here.
Well, if I've got to just go with 2 imports, the 2 imports for me are Ashton Prechtel and Michaela Cowling. So that's a guard and a big in that spot. And when I move from there, Terrell Reed, I think she has had a fantastic season, which she's done on both ends. She would be in that 5. Zoe Richards, the way that she has carried things has been really impressive, especially in the absence of Prechtel, but her overall play. And there, it gets pretty tough. But I'm going to reward McKenna Dale because the way she was shooting the basketball and her switchiness on defense, I really like that. A lot of, obviously, some players in there, Panina Davidson, Crystal as well, and I think Stella Beck would be the next 3 Kiwis that I thought had the best year.
I reckon Ezra McGoldrick had a pretty good season as well.
Yeah, Ezra did have a great season. Yeah. I would, she's quite a similar player to Zoe and Tera, though, in terms of what she can bring. So, yeah. But if we're talking about my All-Star 5...
Let's do it.
Let's go. This is what we're waiting for.
I'm choosing the Kahu, starting 5.
Play, Crystal Ledger Walker.
No, just kidding. If I was to choose an All-Star 5, it probably would be Prechtel, Tess Madgen, even though she came in late, Panina, Stella, and Tera.
Nice.
Stella's in a bit of form as well, heading into the Final 4, has been playing really good basketball. It's exciting to see so many players do so many wonderful things in season 2023. Speaking of wonderful things, the FIBA World Cup. Let's pick it apart for the Tall Blacks.
I mean, wonderful.
Well, we'll start there and we'll work our way through it. What are your thoughts?
Ultimately, it was disappointing that they lost to Mexico. They got the job done against Jordan, just They let it slip against Greece somewhat. USA did USA things, but it was that Mexico loss. Mexico came into that game. They were terrible shooting. They had the worst offense. They barely scored 70 points a game, and the Tall Blacks let them score 108.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you're working on 13 hours rest. You finish one game and 13 hours later you have to play. A difficult situation. They weren't the only team that had to play on that type of turnaround, so they understood it. But at the end of the day, to me, it was decision making. Both with the ball in hand, too many turnovers at key times, but also defensively. I think there were times where if they were playing their very best, if they were all on the same page at the same time, I think they could have made up for some of those mistakes. But too many mental errors in the end cost a team that had to be on that razor's edge every single game for every single minute to be successful.
And that game against Egypt, man, it was a nail biter.
Yeah, no. The whole thing, I just have to agree with everything that you guys have said. It was tough. There were moments, great moments, a lot of highlights, but yeah, in the end.
As you know, it's the evil in preparation. You have to go on those tours, Casey. You know this as well. You have to go and play high-level competition. They're not going to come here. You have to go to Europe. You have to go through Japan, China, whatever it is, and then just to get to the tournament, and then it's bang, bang, bang. And you need to be at your very best. That must be very difficult.
And look, the new format, people talk about the heyday of the Tall Blacks where we made 4 straight Final 16s, but that was a different format. That was with four groups, and the top 4 out of each group of 6 made it. In the format today, the World Basketball, FIBA, has set it up so it's better for the top teams with the top talent. You have to win 2 games, and quite often you have to win 2 games against one of the top 10 teams in the world. That's always going to be a difficult ask. But all that said, thank God we qualified for the Olympic qualifying tournament.
Yeah.
Finishing 22nd and getting a trip to the qualifying tournament is huge.
So just on that, this is what's coming up ahead of the Paris Olympics. It is the Olympic qualifiers. The Tall Ferns will be playing next February, and the Tall Blacks will be playing next July. So both still a chance to get through to Paris.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, mission accomplished at the Asia Cup, and then mission somewhat accomplished at the FIBA World Cup for the Tall Blacks as well. But that's great preparation, because by the July rolls around, the Olympics are obviously in August, it's all on. For the Tall Ferns, it's like you've got this break, and you have to reconvene if you make it, and it's going to be difficult for the journey to be there, but you'll be marking that on your calendar, Crystal.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, we circled that a while ago and had it in the back of our minds before Asia Cup was already going. So yeah, that was definitely the big goal.
Well, Olympics for you, I mean, your mother played for the Tall Ferns in an Olympics. Is it something that you've just grown up? Has that been the focus? Has professional basketball been the focus? When you were thinking of yourself shooting the basket in big games, what were you thinking about, dreaming about when you were a kid?
Definitely the Tall Ferns and the Olympics and World Cups and all these big international events. I mean, professional basketball is kind of something that we just do to help ourselves get there and get ready for that. And I think all the Tall Ferns that are playing in the WNBL or in Europe can attest to that. We're just all getting ready to be in the best shape that we can for national team time.
Is the Olympics the pinnacle?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's because basically every single sport in the world stops for the Olympics. The FIBA World Cups, they come and they go every 4 years. You do get the impression that with 12 teams, it's so limited. Like, you make it, you basically won a medal. Like, you made the Olympics. You know, I mean, that is a brutal draw.
Yeah.
Top 12 teams in the world.
I've never played in the Olympics. I've played in the World Cup. As a fan, as a player who's been in it, I think the basketball is better at the World Cup. I think it's a better tournament. You have to prove yourself more to a higher level. It's more intense trying to get through that kind of qualifying system to it. But obviously, it's about the Olympics.
Well,
all eyes in the world are on it.
I think the tag lasts a lifetime for an athlete as well. If you're an Olympian, you're always noted and called an Olympian when you walk into a room. So it's big stuff. That's all ahead of us in 2024.
Yep, really glad I missed out on that.
Hey, a great news story out of the FIBA World Cup. South Sudan have qualified for the Paris Olympics. Now, amazing in itself. I just want to add to that South Sudan as a country does not have one single indoor basketball court. None.
They were doing their prep on an outdoor court this year. Within the last year, this is a team that's qualified for the Olympics, and we're playing outdoors.
On concrete.
In Dakar. It was like 120 degrees Fahrenheit outside.
It's
and
crazy.
They're playing, I mean, phenomenal story. We know one of the players from the Dutch a little bit. There's quite a few Australian refugees from the Sudan who've gone there. It's just, just what a tremendous story. Luol Deng, all on his back. He's financed the entirety of this team. I mean, you've got like Germany complaining about flying commercial to get to the World Cup. These dudes were playing outside.
Amazing story.
Press up for Germany.
Amazing story. Final four, here we go. GJ Gardner-Holmes at Tauihi. Let's have a look at what lies ahead of us this week. Saturday semi-finals, Kahu and the Phi, Queens and the Hoiho. Forget about Sunday. This is what it looks like. Let's not forget about it. It's obviously massive, but it's all about Saturday before we get to those two games. What are your thoughts? Let's pick it apart. Kahu and the Phi, they met on Monday night.
The recency bias.
Unbelievable game, Miles.
The unbelievable game. How are you feeling about this? Because you've just had the game 2 nights ago. How are you feeling? What does that tell you about what you're going to see in the Final Four?
Other than a bit bruised up, no, I'm feeling good. I mean, you play everybody 3 times, so you get a good look at everyone. It just so happens that we played them last and we're going to play them again. But I mean, it's always a great competition when we go up against Phi, and there's definitely some things that we need to go away and work on. So I'm sure it will be a different game.
She's getting better at the answer that says a lot without saying anything.
What are those things you're working on?
Hey, regardless of the result of that first game, if we get the same as what we saw on Monday night, I'll take that every day of the week.
Look, that's just unbelievable basketball. That would be a privilege to be able. I don't know if you're going to be able to reach that level again. When 2 teams discover they get that, it's going to be intriguing. I think every team does have a weakness. The Kahu's weakness probably not as pronounced as the other 3 teams, but certainly every team in this competition is beatable. But teams are going to have to lift their level, I think, to get over who are the odds-on favorites coming in the Kahu.
Phi or the Kahu?
Kahu.
I'm going to
the B and Z Kahu.
I'm standing across from Crystal. Have you seen her mean mug stand? I've not tested that.
Kahu all the way around. Let's go to the Queens and the Hoiho, the Saturday night game. What are your thoughts, Miles?
I think Casey said it best. The Hoiho have done such a great job of getting to where they are now from last season. And if they had Practical, it'll be a different conversation. But it's the Tokomanawa Queens.
Queens on their home floor.
Yeah.
Does that mean something?
Yeah, 100%. I think the Queens always play better at home. Fans always get into it. They have great support down there, so yeah, I'll probably be going Queens.
Who stops Crystal and Carr?
I mean, up to this point in time, nobody anywhere. I think the final buzzer is about the only thing that's done it up to this point. Look, when you look at the Queens, they've got great scoring with Steph Watts, with Crystal and Carr, Stella Beck averaging almost 15 points per game. I am concerned about how one-dimensional they are as scorers. They don't create a lot. Like, the penetration doesn't create for others. They're creating for themselves.
Yep.
So that has made it tough at times. You could load up on those penetrating drives and not worry as much. If they're able to find a way to distribute the ball a little bit better, I think the Queens would be a much more dangerous offense.
How important is Zoe Richards?
Super important. I mean, Zoe had 30 points, 11 rebounds. It's the backup. It's players like Jen O'Connell who can fill space, who does a great job in rapid league. She's answered the call with Practical down. It's those type of players. Their bench needs to give them something, and not just points, but it needs to be meaningful minutes that contribute to the game.
Looking forward to it. Semi-finals Saturday.
This is what we're doing, baby.
It is all on Business End. Speaking of Business End of the show. Yes, no answers. Strap yourself in, even you. I know you're nervous, but here we go. Did the Tall Blacks underachieve at the World Cup? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bit though.
Just slightly.
Yeah, a little bit.
Will Stephen Adams be a Tall Black in 2024? Yes or no?
Yes. Just say yes, man.
I'll go yes. I don't put this pressure on Steve.
I love Steve.
Right.
Love you, Steve.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Same, man.
Fingers crossed.
I want to see him do the haka.
Yeah.
I want to see him in the black singlet or the white singlet. I want to see him play for New Zealand because somebody said it best. I can't remember who it was. Somebody said it best and said once he does that, he will be the ultimate Tall Black. He will embrace everything about it.
And you know what? I think he wants to do it as well. I genuinely believe he wants to step out there and wear the singlet as well.
I mean, it's just a great environment for him. I think he'd fit.
Yep.
You know, and nobody more Kiwi than Stevie.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you, Crystal?
Yeah, I'll go yes. Yeah, hoping so.
Yeah. Should Australian WNBL teams be looking at McKenna Dale? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What are we talking about?
Of course, yes. Is Michaela Cowlings this year's Tauihi's MVP? Yes or no? And I know you're voting, Case, so...
Yes. It's tough, man.
I got to get the votes in later.
It's a yes from me, you know that. What about you?
And no, I have some teammates that I've got to back, so...
I think very close, but no.
Here we go, final question. It's a one-word answer. Kahu, Phi, Queens or Hoiho?
Kahu.
I won't look.
I'm going to go Kahu.
Good luck to all teams this weekend. It's gonna
Are you
be a bit-
sure that Chris is going to say
We know what's going on there.
know.
We know what's going on there.
She might be sitting some seeds of doubt with her own team.
No, definitely not. Good luck. We wish you well.
Yeah, go good.
Wish all teams well. It's going to be a massive weekend. Final Four coming your way on Sky Sport. Grand Final also live and free across the country on Sky Open. The Kahu, the Queens, the Phi and the Hoi Ho. Enjoy it. We'll be back next week on Sal's Hoopheads to wrap it all up.